If you stay, abide. For rulers are not a terror to good conduct, but to bad. Would you have no fear of the one who is in authority? Then do what is good, and you will receive his approval. Romans chapter 13, verse 3, the English Standard Version. The Apostle Paul in Romans chapter 13 so far has been admirably describing the Christian doctrine of submission to human authorities in the context of the synagogue in Rome. He maintains that God has established those who lead in the Jewish temple. Thus, Christians, though they are followers of Jesus the Christ, must not resist God's work by resisting those authorities. In Romans chapter 13, verses 1 through to 7, the Apostle Paul writes to Gentile believers in Rome to submit not to Roman secular pagan government, but to submit to the God-ordained authority of the synagogue rulers in Rome. It would seem then that the early believers or followers of Jesus the Christ continued to meet with Judean non-believers within the Jewish synagogue. Those who believe in Jesus the Christ made it a point, however, to have house meetings to feed their belief. So they gathered regularly for special meetings in the homes of different followers to break bread or eat, pray, sing, and read correspondences. Still, they did not stop worshiping with their Judean brothers and sisters at the time of this correspondence from the Apostle Paul. It would seem that the Apostle Paul was concerned that the believers would leave the synagogue in Rome. This he seemed to be against, especially since Jesus is the Messiah on whom the Jews wait. And for those who accept Jesus as Messiah, to leave the Jewish synagogue would not be the best practice. Therefore, as long as they stay, the Apostle Paul maintains that they should abide. Today, believers of Jesus the Christ have separated from the Jews and are still separating from each other. The point that the Apostle Paul is making powerfully here is that if you stay, abide. Do not remain and defy authority. The Apostle Paul makes it clear why God establishes human authority. It is to keep order. While each believer may have cause to think that leadership is inept, that is immaterial. As long as they stay, they should abide. This is true whether those authorities are good people or not. God is strategic and has instituted human government in the church to restrain the influence of evil in the world, according to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 7. Christians cannot clutch lawlessness or refuse to submit to God-ordained authority in the context of the church simply because they disagree. As long as they stay, they should abide. The Apostle Paul understands that those in authority can be intimidating. Thus, he finds it necessary to advise how to operate among them without fear. He calls on believers to do good. Do good and good will follow you is an old saying which still holds true, especially if those who lead are just and operate with integrity. If you stay, abide, yet, like the Christ of your faith and the apostles of old, there is only one reason not to abide. That is, if what believers are asked to do conflicts with God's command. Lord, forgive us for the times we refused to submit because we disagreed, and through arrogance defied authority. Could you help us to follow you better? Amen. You have been listening to Morning Manna with Reverend Bonnie EBW Smith, Superintendent of the Moravian Church Antigua Conference and Minister of Christian Education. Have a thoughtful Thursday.